postpartum update. I am almost 12 weeks postpartum, which just seems so crazy. I swear my entire pregnancy flew by, and then this postpartum period has flown by too. Today I just want to talk about my right after birth experience, kind of how I was in the hospital, and then up until 12 weeks I'm going to talk about my cycle returning, ovulation, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, then stay tuned. The first thing I'm going to talk about is right after birth. So I had an epidural that did not work. And so I believe if you have had an epidural that works, right after the baby is born and maybe for a little bit of time afterwards, they leave the epidural in, you're able to use your pump, and that kind of helps with pain management after your baby is born. Because mine was not working, I didn't have a whole lot of pain management right after he was born. And so they gave me a shot of something at some point, I don't know what it was, that seemed to take the pain away a little bit. Now, one thing that is great about childbirth is that after the baby comes out, a lot of the pain just goes away. Now, I had a lot of pain because of the hemorrhage and my doctor literally having her entire arm in my uterus for a while, trying to scrape all the blood clots out and make sure that I wasn't bleeding anymore, which unfortunately I was. I had a Baccarat balloon in my uterus to try to tamponade or stop the bleeding. I had that from like 7:30 a.m. until 4 or 5 p.m. The day that Remy was born. They took it down by 100 cc's every 2 hours or every hour, and then they watched me for 2 hours after they took it out to make sure that I wasn't still bleeding excessively. That was a painful process, but I didn't want to take, I don't even know what they gave me the option of. They said, we can give you a high dose of ibuprofen, or I don't remember what the other options were, but I was not comfortable with taking those. I just don't love taking medicine in general, like just in normal life. And so I said, let me try the ibuprofen, and if it works, then we'll just leave it at that. I think technically I probably should have taken something stronger because it was still pretty painful. Like once I got around to, I think I could take it every 6 hours. Once I got around to like 5 hours, I was like counting the minutes. But anyways, I was able to get by with that. When we got to our postpartum room, because I went to the women's ICU unit for a while until the balloon was out. But once we got up to the postpartum unit, it was like already midnight that night. Derek and I were exhausted. And so we passed out for like 4 hours. We were able to get some sleep, thank goodness. And so then we got up and Remy had a bath. And so we went to the nursery with him for his bath. And so I was able to walk. I was able to get up and walk. And I actually felt pretty good. I feel like for the first 24, from like 5 a.m. the day after I had him, so 24 hours after I had him, for like the next 24 hours, so up until like 48 hours after birth, I felt pretty okay. When I sat down, it was really uncomfortable, but if I was up and standing, I was okay. That drastically changed after 48 hours. I think then my muscles were like, oh my gosh, like we've really been working, we're exhausted. Like standing up off of the couch was so hard for me when I got home. But anyways, so I was really concerned about my first trip to the bathroom after he was born. Like I had thought about this so many times. I felt like every single video that I watched about birth and postpartum and everything was like, your first bathroom trip is just really bad. And so I actually asked for stool softeners as soon as I got to my postpartum room. I was like, I need to make sure that I get on this. I am always constipated. Like, no, I shouldn't say I'm always constipated. That sounds bad. I'm always prone to constipation. Like if there is a chance to be constipated, it's gonna happen to me. So anyways, I went ahead and got on that bandwagon, and I was actually relatively fine. It was not very painful for me. And so I don't know, I didn't necessarily have a problem with that. So I don't know if it was because of the stool softeners. Obviously, like, there is some generalized pain, like you just pushed a baby out of a very small space, and so you are going to be in pain. But it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now, this could also be because of the trauma that I went through giving birth, and then my, you know, just right after he was born, and so the pain was just not as bad. But anyway, so that's my story with that. I did have a second degree tear. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I did have a second degree tear, which I think caused a lot of the burning and the pain when I went to the bathroom. I did have a can of the Dermaplast, I believe it's called, that's like for numbing, and it's like an antiseptic spray. I did have that, and I did use it. I also had a spray bottle from the hospital. I also had my own. I think it's the Frida Baby. And so anyways, I had both of those things. Those were both very helpful, but I didn't use them a ton when I got home. I don't know why, but I just didn't. I didn't feel like I needed them a ton. So anyways, that is that. I had a lot of bleeding, not like an excessive amount, like I was cleared and was totally fine, and like they were not concerned about it, but I did bleed pretty consistently for at least 2 weeks. And then I had spotting postpartum until 5 weeks. I remember this because I had 1 week of not having bleeding or spotting, and then my period started. And I was so bummed. I was so bummed. It just felt like a slap in the face to finally like get to the point where you're like, oh, okay, good. Like I can go back to wearing normal underwear, and then they're like, nope, you get to have a period. So my cycle did start back for almost 6 weeks right on the dot. I think it was like 2 or 3 days right after 6 weeks. And so my first cycle was not bad at all. Obviously like bleeding, but that's normal. I normally have very, very painful periods, and I was surprised that this one was not that bad. Anyways, got through that. It was my normal like 4 to 5 days. I did have some like spotting afterwards. Anyways, so about 6 days before I started my cycle, I started taking ovulation tests. We were just going to try to be careful until my cycle returned so that we would just have a better idea. Like once you have a baby, like some people get a period back right away, some people it takes months. And so my plan was just to take ovulation tests so that I could catch ovulation if it happened or when it happened. And so I think my body tried to ovulate and started to like ramp up to ovulation around the right time, but because I was still pumping and breastfeeding, it like didn't happen. Like my test reading darker and darker and darker, had not peaked yet, and then went back to being negative. And so I wasn't sure if I had ovulated or not. I got a peak ovulation on cycle day 19, which is late in a cycle to ovulate. I'm sure there are people who do it. But normally I'm right around like 14 to 15. So I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting to see what happens. Like, is my cycle going to start when it normally would? Is it going to start 14 days after this point? And it did surprisingly start when it normally would have. I had a normal 28-day cycle, which is actually not normal for me. I'm normally like 30 to 32. I am interested to see when I ovulate this month. Obviously, if I continue ovulating late in my cycle and I have a short luteal phase, that's not great as far as in terms of being able to get pregnant again. It's definitely something that you can fix, but as far as like just naturally falling pregnant again, it's not like the most opportune. My understanding is like if an egg is fertilized and it's going to implant, if you only have like, I think my days between were like 8 or 9 days in between when I ovulated and when my period started. So that's not enough time for a baby to implant and to start growing, which is not what we were trying to accomplish this last month. I'm just saying in general, moving forward, if that continues to happen, then it could be a problem when we decide to have another baby. So I will keep you guys updated on that if it's something that you're interested about. I haven't seen a lot of people post videos about their cycles and kind of ovulation and stuff right after having a baby, probably because most people aren't thinking about it, but I am always trying to stay in tune with my body and kind of what is happening. So that is something that I wanted to pay attention to. Also, because we are not on, like, I'm not on birth control, it's one of the only ways that I can kind of know what is happening in my body. We want to give my body time to heal. We want to give us time to enjoy our 2 kids before we throw a 3rd one into the mix. Like, if we were to get pregnant at any point in time, we would be thrilled. Like, we would be so excited. I don't think we will ever find out about a new addition to our family and be bummed and be like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst timing. But if we have a choice, we are choosing to not actively pursue getting pregnant right now. So that's where the ovulation tests are coming into play. Obviously, using things like condoms or like lubrication that has like spermicide in it are also like more natural ways to prevent pregnancy. I don't know that that's necessarily the way to say that, but not using birth control. Birth control has always kind of messed with my body and my hormones, and right now I'm trying to just keep an even field. Like, I was able to get pregnant naturally. I don't want to mess anything up. I could have already gone back to what I was before. Remy could just be a complete fluke and it will never happen again. I pray that that is not the case, but it could be the case. But if I'm still at like a higher level of fertility, I want to keep it that way as long as I possibly can. Let's talk about weight. So I gained 19 pounds when I was pregnant with Remy, which I was so proud of. I am a generally overweight person. If you've watched any of our vlogs, I'm sure you can see that. My doctor was really concerned that I was going to gain a ton of weight, that I was going to eat everything that I could possibly want, and I was going to balloon up. I think she told me that she wanted me to gain less than 15 pounds. My sister, my friends, Derek can all tell you that I was severely concerned about gaining weight through my pregnancy. Not so much that I did not eat the things that I wanted, but it was a concern to me. So anyways, I did have pretty bad morning sickness for like the first 14 or 15 weeks, which caused me not to gain any weight. I don't think I gained a pound until I was like 15 weeks pregnant. So that definitely helped. And then I just tried to stay active as much as I could. And so anyways, I gained 19 pounds. Most of it was towards the end of my pregnancy. But I gained 19 pounds. The day that I got home from the hospital, I was back to my pre-pregnancy weight. And then for the next week, I lost 10 pounds. So that is something that I was so grateful for. I even called my doctor to make sure that it, like, there wasn't something wrong, and she said, no, you know, as long as you're feeling okay, as long as you're eating, then it's totally normal. If you continue to drop weight though, we'll bring you in, but if this is all it is, then we'll just leave it at it. And I've lost only like an additional 2 pounds since the last 10 pounds, so I'm like 12 pounds less than I was when I got pregnant, which I will take any day of the week. And I have not been seriously watching what I'm eating. I try not to go overboard, but I'm not like depriving myself, I guess. I would love to lose an additional 10 to 15 pounds, maybe even 20 pounds before I get pregnant again. We'll just have to see. Having 2 kids that are 19 months and almost 3 months, it's just not very conducive for working out. Obviously I could be working out right now, but I've been cleaning and now filming this video. So obviously, if I wanted to make it more of a priority, I could, but I just don't. Both of the kids are napping right now. Derek is at work. I actually braved my first Walmart trip with the 2 of them by myself today. I put Remy in his little carrier, I had Ellie in the cart, and we walked into Walmart, got pool chemicals, and walked right back out. It was like a 10-minute trip, but I was still really proud of myself that I did it, because I used to freak out about just taking Ellie, as if taking 1 kid is not some kind of like act of God. But I took both of them by myself today. It was only for a short trip, like I said, but I still feel like I could conquer the entire world now. Now tomorrow, I'll probably be in tears just by the time breakfast is done. It's just how some days go. but I'm gonna try to remember. I try to remember the victories. I try to remember the good bedtimes and the good nap times and everything. As far as like changes to my body postpartum, my hair, you probably can't even see it in this clip, but is just a lot more frizzy than it ever was before. And then my skin is finally getting back to normal, but it was so dry. It was so dry after Remy was born. Like for the first 3 or 4 weeks after he was born, I almost didn't even want to put makeup on because it would just look so bad because my skin was so flaky and just, ugh, it was just yucky. I have had some like stomach pain, gas pain. I definitely feel phantom kicks a lot, which is just so odd to me. And I have to remind myself that I'm not pregnant. Every once in a while they really get me and I'm like, wait a minute. But there's like actually physically no way that I could be pregnant enough to feel phantom or feel actual kicks at this point in time. And I am not pregnant. So let's just go ahead and leave it at that. Plans moving forward, just going to continue with the ovulation tests. Maybe I will like film an update video every few months just to kind of keep you guys updated. So yeah, other than that, that's kind of an update on me postpartum. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments down below. If you have any like broader questions that you would like me to sit down and answer in a video, then you can also leave that down below. But other than that, we will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.